Alright, so in most of these Natalie Bollinger groups, this is about hypocrisy. Um, in most of these Natalie Bollinger groups, they kicked out anybody who stuck up for me. Anybody at all. And they had spies on my Facebook who were taking whatever they wanted, just picking and choosing the parts they could twist and contort to try to make me look like an evil person. And that's what went into these Natalie Bollinger groups, and I do have pictures from this. And thank you, Shannon Alvarado. You were not useless. You weren't. You really did a lot of good. The biggest problem, though, is that I was trying to get you to make a police report the whole time. You can make a police report across state borders. You can make a police report. If Kara Miles, a.k.a. Kara Johnson, the lady who you let me know was doing these terrible things, if she can make a police report from Texas, you can make one from California. So there was a lot of harassment, bullying, and heckling on the Natalie Bollinger group that I got from Katie Cahill. Kell was on there, and it says we are not connected on Facebook. She's actually not in the group anymore. What I did was, all she did was like one of those bully things. Just hit the like button. Now, there's probably more in that group, but when she did that, I removed her from the group. This is to make a point. When I wasn't allowed in these groups, I wasn't allowed to show everything, but they were allowed to pick and choose little bits and pieces to try to make me look like a villain. That really created a problem. That was a very tyrannical thing to do. That wasn't very democratic. But I also let Kell know. I typed, I don't know you, but I don't need to, removing you from the group. It's a good point, is it not? She typed, what group? It must be one I don't participate in. I typed, the real justice for Natalie Bollinger, no drama. I removed you already. She typed, no worries. Like I said, it was one I didn't participate in. See? Very cool. I'm fine with that. Like I said, this is to make a point. I typed, well, I kicked you out for liking slander. Lots of people were kicked out of groups just for liking stuff. When somebody defended me and they hit the like button, they'd get kicked out of that group. So I did that to this person. And I did make a great point, because this woman typed back, I realized why I no longer paid attention or participated in the group. It was resolved. Thank you for a good reminder, though. I belong to a lot of Facebook groups. Most relate to animal abuse cases and dog groups. But I need to go through and clean it up, because there are a lot of groups that just are no longer relevant, and that is the case with this one. Thank you. All right, very cool, Kell. Shouldn't have taken part in the harassment. That's what the liking thing was. It was a popularity contest. It had nothing to do with the truth. It had to do with who got the most likes. The whole thing was a popularity contest. It had nothing to do with the facts. It had to do with framing an innocent man to protect a bunch of predators. And that's in my text messages here. There are a lot of predators that these people typed about. And later on, when I exposed those predators that they typed about, they got pretty pissed off. Now, she wasn't done typing here, though. She also typed this part, 100%, yes, absolutely, Kell. I agree with you on this. Let's read it. Anyone that basically shuts down conversation that they don't like or agree with is a dictator. Well, I had to deal with thousands of dictators who didn't like anything that I had to say on Facebook. They didn't like what I had to say in these groups. They didn't like what I had to say on YouTube, and they didn't want me to say any of it in court, and made sure that I couldn't. Made sure that I couldn't defend myself. Made sure that evidence was destroyed. Facebook is an algorithm, folks. When it decides that something is okay or not okay, it's based on an algorithm, not a human being taking a look. not a human being who's investigating the whole situation. Those Natalie Bollinger groups need to be shut down. But before they're shut down, the evidence in them needs to be collected. Anyway, she typed, anyone that basically shuts down conversation that they don't like or agree with is a dictator. Open conversation can facilitate understanding, or at least where the other side is coming from. Exactly! I have been trying so hard. Alright, you guys want to go and take the videos where I'm frustrated after I've made hundreds of videos begging someone to help me to do exactly that. Open conversation. Open proceedings to speak with the other parties. Exactly what I had been trying to do for a whole year before Natalie died. Give them my phone number. And I have proof of this. Proof of it. And that's the whole point, is that people were trying to prevent me from doing that. And they did so effectively. The Facebook bans, the I hate you, the threats against me. And when I threaten them back, I'm the one who's the bad guy. Fuck you. When they were threatening me, nobody gave a fuck. Nobody did a goddamn thing. Oh, Sean, I collected some evidence. Turn that into the cops then. They use the term mentally ill to not do their jobs. The term is mentally disabled, not ill. And to do these things to a mentally disabled person is against the law. It's felonious. Ken and Leah taking my money is felonious. Now, if there's a reason for it, I am sure that the courts and the world and myself will understand, but you need to come out with that reason. Or you can continue hiding, proving that you chose to do that. You ripped me off intentionally. Is that what you want, Ken and Leah? Anyway, we'll continue with this stuff from Kell Bell, because all of this stuff that I have been saying all along, when I did it to this woman, she reacted exactly the way that I did, and she felt exactly the way that I did about how it should have been handled. But also, at the very end here, we'll finish this and I'll tell you about that part at the end. Open conversation can facilitate understanding, or at least where the other side is coming from. You shutting that down tells me everything. Ah, judgment. See? She feels the same way about people shutting down a voice like that I do. It tells me everything. It tells me that you're guilty. And this is her assumption. This is where she's coming from on this. She's assuming my guilt because of the way that I did that. But in reality, I did it to prove a point. Because really, between blocking her and blocking the person who made the post, I did not block the person who made the post. I am fairly certain that the person who made the post can still see my Facebook. This person right here, she typed, I don't have a dog in that fight though, on either side. So it isn't important to me. I'm just glad the case was resolved. Well, that's the thing, is that it wasn't resolved. Because it wasn't just Natalie's case. It's hundreds of cases of abuse against myself and others. By law enforcement, by these web wingnuts, by people like Karamia, a.k.a. Kara Rogers, and people like Kara Johnson. See, if it wasn't for all these drama hounds playing go-between, instead of it being an open conversation between myself and my supposed victims and the police, that should have happened very early on. That probably should have happened in Virginia. But the police didn't want to take my report in Virginia either. And the things that I told them would happen, I told that officer on the way to the hospital what he was going to do and what the end result was going to be. Boy, was I right. When you've seen hundreds of these cases... Now, I want to tell you something about that officer, though. He came back later and he spoke to me and he apologized. And he said he didn't realize it was like that. So, just because I don't agree with the way things are doesn't mean that there aren't officers who do things that I can agree with. At least he admitted wrong. at least he admitted that the things that he thought were doing some good, he'd never really had to deal with these people after dropping them off at the hospital. With me, he had to. He gave his word while I was in that vehicle that if they towed my vehicle, he would get it out. And I want to tell you something. It sucks that I don't remember that officer's name because he did help me get it out. He gave me a ride down there to where my car was stowed. And I got it out without paying a penny. So the money that people sent me to get my vehicle out of the tow yard, like Alex Furman, thank you, Alex. Those people, I got to use their money to put into gas to go back to Nebraska and Colorado. Anyway, we'll get back to what this woman is saying, because Kell Bell is 100% right in all this. She is. She feels exactly the way that I feel about the treatment of other people who are defending me, who are trying to show the whole truth, who are kicked out of these groups, who are bullied and harassed and teased and picked on. And later on, I bullied and harassed and teased and picked on these people too. Do you know why? Because that's the reason most of them wouldn't make a report. Because they were bullied and harassed and teased and picked on by others. When I asked nicely, well, they couldn't. They procrastinated and procrastinated. And eventually it got to the point where it's like, you're a fucking asshole. The things I needed you to make a report on that you said that you would months and months and months ago. I needed that for court months and months and months ago. I needed that so that I could get an honest day in court months and months and months and months ago. Now it's too late. Now we have to go back and fight that. And I do need to fight it in civil court. I need to fight all of those people and those judges and those public pretenders in civil court for the things that they did. They're not just immoral, they're illegal. To torture somebody the way that they did, both mentally and physically. Anyway, this woman also typed, she's just glad the case was resolved. Now, we're going to go back up here to the part that I told you I was going to go back to for a reason. All right. Anyone that basically shuts down conversation that they don't like or agree with is a dictator. Open conversation can facilitate understanding, or at least where the other side is coming from. And then right after she typed this, she blocked me. It says, "You can't reply to this conversation. Learn more." So you seeing my point? She did exactly what it is that she was whining about. But she was also, because you guys call it whining when I do it, when I say it's fucked up that these people did these things, this woman thinks it's fucked up too. But the thing is, the case isn't resolved. The events leading up to her death and the people in her life who actually did these things are still walking free. And these people actually threatened my friends and my family. And the police did nothing. So my friends and my family do have good reason to fear. They do have reason to fear coming forward and speaking up. But also, they have reason to fear from me if they don't. Because I know their secrets. I know their personalities. And there are other people who know their personalities as well. Like Josh Hughes. I spoke of his personality and Pierre's both. And when I was talking to Brandon Ratner, well, he had the same assessment that I do. The same assessment. And with Veronica Randall, same thing. Brandon Ratner dated her for a long time. And with Brian Townsend, he had the same assessment with Miss Veronica as I did too. Actually, what Brian Townsend said is, Sean, Veronica may not be a pretty white girl, but she might as well be. That was just a matter of perspective, though. He wasn't trying to say that she's a bad person. But we're talking about a cute little half-Asian girl versus a black man in Boulder, Colorado. Like, yeah, those are going to be completely different perspectives. And Brian Townsend ain't from Boulder, Colorado. He's from places where they have a lot of black people. Boulder, Colorado don't have a lot of black people. I got a lot of folks that I'm angry at, miffed at, pissed at, whatever, that are personal heroes to me. They are still personal heroes to me. Matty Boa is one of those people. I'm going to tell you about a telephone that I had once. Now, my very first smartphone was the one that I got from Alicia Bollinger, the broken one that used to belong to Natalie. And it sucked. It only had service for a month. It was expensive. I lost my phone number and my phone numbers. And I mean, it was just a pain. But before that, Janine Barrett. This is Derek Parrish's mother. We worked together as a community to make it better down there. There were those of us who walked around and picked up garbage, and people who showed people where the warming centers are, where the food services are, where the SSI office is, where the warming centers and the shelter are actually very important. You can freeze to death there because it's illegal to use a blanket. But then again, there's several thousand homeless people and only several hundred open beds. There's only 122 at the shelter, and 70 something of those go to basically it's halfway house services, transitional housing. So they don't have anywhere to put these homeless people who aren't allowed to use blankets, so they fill the jails. There are hundreds of homeless people in the Boulder County Jail at any point in time. Janine Barrett, she gave me the emergency phone. Now this thing was badass. I didn't know how to use it. There was a game called Dogfights, and that's what I used it for. I didn't know how to do the texting thing or any of that, so I just avoided it. That phone was used. I would be in Starbucks, and people could come and use my computer to fill out job applications, and they could use the emergency phone provided by Janine. Janine paid for it. She paid the bill and everything. And they could use that phone to call their families, to call their friends, to, try to get a bus ticket home, or whatever it is that was their homeless emergency at that point in time. And that, I guess, technically was my first smartphone, but I never used it. I didn't really have a need to. I knew how to use the telephone part of it, and I could call, and that's what I used it for. I didn't know how to set up a Google account or hook it up to my Facebook or any of that kind of crap, so I didn't. It wasn't attached to any of that. Janine and I, we had a pretty long past, and Derek and I as well. When I first met them, they were in the bottom of a parking garage, and I brought them a blanket. And I had that story. The thing is, the things that people were trying to tell you, the people who know me in real life, who are trying to tell you who I really am in real life on these Facebook groups, you were extremely cruel to. Their words didn't matter, only yours did. Only your tyranny did. You were busy shutting down other people's voices for a reason, because you fear them. And these people, from all of the bullying that they received for speaking up, they're afraid to come forward. And that magically makes you guys the winners. Well, it doesn't. I don't mind bullying people. If you're going to bully me, I'll bully you back. If you're going to cower, well, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to speak up and call you a coward for doing so. To ostracize. This is one of the greatest rights of the Greek democracy. But it's what people do anyway. That's the thing that's so great about Greek democracy. The punishments are what people are going to do anyway. They're going to do those things anyway because it's human nature. If they don't like what you did, they're going to ostracize you. They're also going to ostracize you, however, if they think you did something. And if you're not allowed the opportunity or chance to defend yourself, and these people have this hateful mob mentality and it's directed towards you and you never got to defend yourself, that's a different story. And that was not a part of Greek democracy. In Greek democracy, everyone got a chance. Even a woman was allowed to go to the courts in Greece. A woman had no rights, but in the courtroom she did. Now they say that only men were allowed to vote and only men were allowed to be on the jury, but we found out recently that's not true either. Derek gave his word, Pierre gave his word, and everybody who broke their word, I ripped their ass. They could have come forward, they could have told the truth, but they chose not to. They chose to lie to me and lie about me in some cases. Pierre, you're a fucking coward, but I get it. Them girls are there and you still have a crush on Alicia. You still want to get with her. I get it. I'm still not going to shut up about it, Pierre. You're a skirt chaser. Just so you know, when I was in Virginia, Alicia Bollinger didn't have very nice things to say about you. She, just like Brandon and I, had the same assessment of you. You're a skirt chaser. You're fake as fuck, Pierre.